Nigel, the new season is almost upon us. How are the preparations going, and do you get a sense of excitement going into Saturday?
Yeah, I think there's a real air of expectation, positive air of expectation that we can feel from our fan base certainly, and in here as well. It's been a really good pre-season. The players have been excellent in terms of how they've applied themselves and created a really strong competition within themselves. We've picked up one or two injuries along the way, but that's part and parcel of it. But we go into the game with a very positive outlook, I think, more than anything. And as always, this final week just before the season starts is one where you can start to feel people getting really into top gear, and I think that's really important. We start the season well.
Pre-seasons can or can't be a gauge of how clubs will do. In terms of the 7 games we've played, and very importantly on the training field, what's pleased you most?
Well, I suppose everything I've already talked about, in the sense that the initial part of pre-season is about the conditioning side, and the players came back in very good nick, and so I think that was important for them to be able to push on quickly. So the games have gone well, mostly. It's all now really about how we transfer what's been a very positive pre-season into league form that's more consistent than we've sometimes had, and we want to try and pick up some momentum pretty quickly. So the players are really looking forward to Saturday, and I mean, there's going to be some disappointed players, of course, because you can have 11 starters, but I know that the mood within the camp is very, very good. So it's going to be a season where everybody who's in the squad is going to play their part, and I think that's an important message for everybody to understand.
And as you enter your 3rd full season with the club, how do you assess where Bristol City is and its ambition to get into the Premier League?
Well, the ambition's always been there, I think, and that's something that I'm very aware of. We've had to really negotiate some difficult moments too, and some difficult periods where there is a sense that we're not really making a lot of progress. But I think now there's been a real shift in terms of where we all recognise we are, and I think the ambition to be a Premier League side is actually more achievable now than it's been for quite a long time. We've still got, obviously, there's always going to be things to improve, and there's no doubt that the Championship this year will be a very tough league to be successful in. But we believe in ourselves, and we believe that we're better placed now to really construct a realistic push for that ambition. Whether it happens or not is time will tell that, and I'm always very realistic in terms of where we are. But what you've got to do is you've got to try and harness the positivity, and we try and do that internally here. And then, of course, on match days, we have to make sure our fans go into the game that they're watching and the next game thinking that there are possibilities, and we have to create an atmosphere which is positive. We have to we have to try and make the most of this opportunity, because every fresh start of a season gives you a chance to show progression. And I'm very aware of how things can change quickly, of course. And we're yet to play our first game, but I think it's really important for us to have a positive outlook on what is possible, because we've got a very exciting group of players. You know, we've got some really good experience and some youngsters who, you know, we don't know how far they can go, but we've got a very exciting group, and I think that's something for us to be proud of as well. That we now have a squad which has a real value, and I think will cause teams problems this year.
And by the looks of it, a pretty fit squad. I want to say physically fit, and you've talked about outrunning teams and that being a point of difference. At this stage, based on the games you've seen and what you see in training, can you assess where the team is in that process?
What, compared to what we've been before?
Last season, yeah.
I think we've made progressions again, which is important. The period after the Christmas period, if you like, for the second half of the season, our statistics from physical stats were much better as well. We were up there with the best of the teams last year in that regard, and I think that the players have pushed on again. We try and recruit players who fit into that sort of profile as well, so that we're not always playing catch up with new players. It's really important that that's how we try and shape the squad. And of course, because there are rule changes in terms of timekeeping from the officials, you know, we may be looking at another 10 or 15 minutes on top of what we already play, which, you know, the physical conditioning of the squad and the team is very important for that, because the fitter you are, potentially, the less mistakes you make. You know, it's amazing how many goals are conceded through players who are really fatigued, and so it could have a bearing over the course of the season of a few points, which, you know, when you look at the fine margins of how seasons are defined, hopefully that will count in a very positive way for us. So, you know, but it's all it's all good talking about it and seeing the stats on paper, but really it's about how we perform, how we have to be in control of ourselves. That's the big thing, and go out there and perform in a way which we don't want to hold anything back. And I think that's all those things together can create quite a powerful sort of feeling. And on top of that, our players are good players.
When you look at last season and the way it finished positively, where's the balance for you as a manager and the coaching team between credit in the bank from the players who performed as against the new players you brought in to obviously improve the team? And you haven't really seen them in a kind of in league action, obviously. So
there's always there's got to be a balance with how you look at it. So when we come back pre-season, it's about what we do now. But of course, it's also important for us to recognise that players who have been here, whether it be a couple of years or longer, if they've made progressions themselves, then it's important to recognise that. But to have a real competition within the squad, it's vital that they all understand that it's now what they do. It's how they perform now. Of course, history is always important to refer to, but it's a new season, it's a new start for everybody, and they have to be up for not just the challenges for us as a team, but the individual challenges within the squad of either retaining your place in the team or ousting somebody who's already there. It's healthy to have competition, but it's got to be driven by a group ethic, which is very, very important, and that is we want to be successful.
As you say, only 11 can start and 9 subs. Do you spend a lot of this week talking to players because they've worked really hard in pre-season?
It's an interesting question in the sense that I think a lot of the talking's been done. it's always about trying to judge the mood of where players in this final week can start to go into their own focusing mode, and you've got to respect that too. I'm quite laid back about how it feels now, because players will be starting to focus in their own specific way. Training's been excellent still, so the tempo and the intensity with which we trained has been good all pre-season, as it was last year. There's a real togetherness, but of course we've got to prove that now with results, getting results in the league, and it's never straightforward. But yeah, the preparation's been as good as it can be, and that's really all I can state at this point. I'm pleased with how we've approached it collectively. So let's see what the season brings in.
3 o'clock Saturday, Preston North End. Where do you see the challenge from them? Obviously, I don't think they've changed much. They've had Ryan Lowe in since last December. What kind of challenge is that?
They're always a tough side to play against, and Ryan will be as keen as any manager to get off to a positive start. So there's one aspect of doing your homework on the team that you play, but I think we all go into the first game with the main focus being on, can we be as good as we can be? And I think there will be there's always an air of the unknown as well, even though we know what teams are about. It's still a case of trying to pitch where we are at compared to our opponents. It'll be like every game. It'll be a tough championship fixture. I'm sure they're expecting us to be going at full tilt, as we expect them to be as well. It'll be teams with 2 different shapes, but we'll see. We'll just see how. I'm looking forward to the game just because of, as I've already pointed out, the prep's been good. So now we need to see whether we can perform, and that for me is the top and bottom of it.